morning and welcome to the Public Thought Leadership event. This series highlights research supporting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We are proud to be ranked number one globally in the Times Higher Education University Impact Rankings for Sustainability for 4 consecutive years, celebrating our commitment to sustainability. The thought leadership events are part of the Western Sydney University Sustainability and Resilience Decadal Strategy 2030. Today, we have our final and third workshop in Financial Literacy series. Financial literacy is a powerful tool for reducing social and economic inequality, and it's a skill everyone deserves. This three-part workshop series is designed to build financial confidence and strengthen your practical money skills. Associate Professor Michelle Cull, our facilitator, is an expert in accounting and financial planning at Western Sydney University. With more than 2 decades of teaching experience, their research focuses on financial literacy, ethics, trust, and education that align strongly with the United Nations SDGs. Michelle has led numerous initiatives supporting financial literacy across diverse communities, including migrants, students, and women in trades. In our first workshop, we have explored how to create a realistic workable budgeting basics. And in our second workshop, the focus was on financial well-being to help us with completing a personal financial health check and explore strategies to support long-term well-being. Today, our final workshop in this series will focus on your financial vision. A warm welcome, Michelle, and all yours. Thank you.
Okay, so today we're going to be looking at your financial vision, planning for your future. And we will be looking at how the first two workshops link to your financial vision, whether that be actually saving for, it could be saving for a house, it could be investing money, it could be looking to retirement. And as we discussed in our last workshops, we also looked at debt. So your financial vision might include reduction of debt, for example. You might want to pay your mortgage off by a specific time. And then we also looked at superannuation. So maybe you want to put so much money aside in your superannuation for your retirement, protecting your assets, making sure that you've got your insurance covers in place, or maybe even your financial vision could be simply ensuring that you've got the right insurances in place. And then we also did cover estate planning. So things like making sure you've got a valid will or a binding nomination for your superannuation. So there are a few things that we've covered in the previous workshops. When we talked about the financial goals, we wanted them to be SMART goals. So when we're talking about SMART, S for specific, now I've just have to remember this. M for measurable, A for achievable, R for realistic, and T for a timeline. So when we're preparing our vision board, we want to ensure that we have how much it's going to cost, if it's going to cost something, when we want to have achieved this by, and we want to, because it's a vision board, we want to have some image to represent what it is that we're looking to achieve. So even though you might want to think big, and we encourage you to think big as well, there may also be smaller goals to help you achieve those larger goals. So we're going to discuss that in a little bit more detail now. Are there any questions before I go on? Okay, so you might remember that when we talked about goals last week, we talked about short-term goals, medium-term and long-term goals. So in your vision board, you may have a combination of these things. So the short-term goals are those that are more immediate and where you probably already need to have the funds available to do that, but you just have to actually make it happen. So your vision board can help motivate you to ensure that you meet your goals. You're not just talking about them. You're not just saving the money and then waiting for the right time. You're actually going to put a timeline on it and make it happen, and ensure that you're achieving not just your financial goals, but your life goals as well. So some examples of a short-term goal is it might be even building an emergency fund, for example. So we talked in the first workshop when we looked at budgeting that it's really important to also build an emergency fund that can cover at least 3 months living expenses. So 3 to 6 months is better, but at least 3 months. So if that's something that maybe you haven't got, maybe that's something that you want as one of your short-term goals. And of course, you can make that realistic and work out how much that is that you might need in the emergency fund and how long is it going to take for you to get there. Other short-term goals might be paying off short-term debt like credit cards, or it could be even saving for a holiday. So for when we're looking at short-term goals, you also might need to think about if they are involving a savings account. You also might need to consider or where might those funds be saved. You might want to have a special account that rewards you for saving or has a higher interest rate. So think about these when you're putting your vision board together. We don't want the vision board to be too messy with too much detail, but it does need to be specific. So you might if you've got, say emergency fund, that might be on your vision board, and then you might have emergency fund and then high interest savings account and how much it is that you're going to have in that account. But as you're preparing your vision board, you might also want to have, another, I suppose, a list of how you're going to get there, the steps, how you're going to achieve those goals on your vision board. When we look at medium-term goals, 3 to 5 years, it could just be something that's going to bridge that gap between your more immediate needs and having some longer-term security. So it might be a new kitchen, maybe it's a new home for some people, or even a wedding. So there's just some examples. There's many more, but they're just some to get you started. And once again, you might want to think about if you are needing to save or invest to achieve those goals, how you might do that. And then we've got the longer term goals, so the 5+ years. So some of these will be a large part of your financial vision board because the vision board is there to keep you motivated. So having some of those longer term goals there to remind you what the end game is can really help. So whether that might be something much bigger, as I say, that could also be a house. It could be something like looking at retirement as well. So it's very different for different people. It could even be starting a family, and that could be even a medium-term goal for some people. But everyone's goals will be very different. So how do we make our goals a reality? As I said, with the SMART goals, we want them to be realistic as well, but try to think big first, and then we can see, is there a way we can make that happen? So we don't want to rule anything out at this stage, but then we want to look at what it is that our goal is, what our vision is, and then say, okay, can we make that a reality and how do we get there? Some of the literature on financial visions and setting financial goals has shown that the main challenges is that people don't have the ability to sustain the resilience. So, there's always setbacks that we face over time. You might have this financial goal in place or even a life goal in place. You're trying to get there. You have a strategy. Something happens that you're not expecting. That's life. And for a lot of people, that makes it really hard for them to keep going and have that resilience. So that's one of the challenges. One of the other challenges is actually accessing how you're performing against your goals. And we discussed some of those tools that you might want to use when we had our first workshop on budgeting. And we did say that there are a lot of tools that are available from Money Smart, the government website, that you can help to track against your budget. But also there are some other tools that your bank might provide or other apps that you could use to track that performance. For the purposes of your financial vision board, that's going to actually help you sustain that resilience. So what we are looking at when we're looking at this board, and then we'll get to some more detail about how it might look later, is that you're going to have it somewhere where you see it every single day. So it's reminding you this is what you want. It's just like I know I went to an event several years ago with a motivational speaker, one of our previous volleyball medalists. And what she was saying was that, for to motivate her, when she had a lot of setbacks, she had something that she wrote down on a piece of paper and she had it up. Um, it's where she saw it every single day when she would get up in the morning and she would see this quote that she put up to motivate herself on what she wanted to achieve. And that's been used by a lot of people to achieve their goals. We hear it often with athletes, but it can be also for your financial goals. And so sometimes it might be, we're talking about using images, but you can put some words up on your vision board. You could put some motivational quotes. We are going to have a little look at that as well. But as I said, let's start big. What are your financial aspirations? Because why not start there? Okay? Look, we can have an aspiration and then we can figure out the road to get there. So I wonder, just while we have you, excuse me, here online, maybe you might have a financial aspiration that you want to share with one of us, or maybe something you think some people might have.
I've just written a long list of things.
Yeah, so that's a good start actually to get your vision board is to write your list to start with. So have you got any you want to share?
Well, if I break it down into, I'll share three. I've got the short term, medium term, long term ones. Um, a short term one would be to get a will. I don't have a will. A medium term one is I'd like to set up a consulting company.
Oh, good.
And my long term goal is I also want to set up a sanctuary for dingoes.
Oh, nice. Wow, they're really exciting goals.
Mm.
But I suppose you've got them there on your list now. Now it's one thing to have them as on the list, and we often think about these things, right? In the back of our minds, we're often thinking about, oh, one day we might do this, one day we might do that. But putting it down on paper, writing a list, and then when you create that vision board, it makes it real. And then we're going to go that step further. We're not just going to then put it on the vision board and go, right now it's going to happen. We're actually going to work out a plan to make it happen. So what are the actual steps that then we will need to take to get there? And that's really important to ensure that we achieve it. But you've got the reminder there on that vision board so you can't forget that that's what you're aiming for. And then I suppose one of the other things is to actually compare what you're currently doing to what your goals will require. So that's where we can look at whether there's something that needs to change to help you to achieve those goals, or are you already on track? So there are a few things to think about there. So although this is, a short workshop, we'll be working through how you can create a vision board. It's really going to be up to you to put those steps in place to actually make your vision happen. And sometimes people speak to, this is where life coaches can be really helpful as well. There are many around that you can make appointments with. That might even be just like speaking to a counselor in some instances or a friend. You know, talk, when you tell people about your goals, it does start to make them more real. And then you think, oh, I actually told somebody this is what I want to do. Now I better make sure it happens, right? So, but sometimes just having someone to make you accountable, that you meet with regularly, just to say, this is how I'm going. I know when I was growing up, I had an auntie, or still have an auntie who has just been fabulous. And I know whenever we would have family events, she would ask me how I was going. She'd just have the right questions to ask me. And every time I knew there was a family event coming up, I'd be thinking, oh, I wonder how I'm going with things. I'll have to, be telling my auntie how things are going. And it does really help to talk about your goals like that. Yes, Radra.
Yeah. So what I do is that we do together, my husband and I do together a planning and then involve our children. So for example, I just wanted to go to Antarctica in 2030. 28. Yeah, 2028 early in January. So we have to work backwards. It's not just the money and travel arrangements and the tickets. It's how you get fit by the time to travel to such a country. What are the things you need to carry? So it's a lot of things. When you think, oh, just book the ticket, that's that. That's not it. So many things are involved in that kind of planning. So I thought we just do as a family and we just write down, open a notebook and start writing. Whenever you remember, go and put it. It's old fashioned way, pen and paper, but it works. It's just an example.
Absolutely. And yes, even creating the vision board, like a lot goes into it. You might need to, like we're going to have a little play around today, but you might want to put some time aside over a weekend or a couple of weekends to put it together. Depends on how pretty you want it to look. But the other thing is you could have like your one vision board with all your financial goals there. You could have one just for 2026. So, a lot of people might do that at the beginning of the year. Or what you might want to do is have like one overall vision board that you see every day, but then you might want to spend some time taking, if it's say a travel aspiration, if it's say to Antarctica, you could have a vision board just on Antarctica and all the things that you need to do to make that happen. So it can be a lot of fun, particularly if you do have other people that are part of those goals. Like if you're traveling with family or friends, it'd be a lot of fun to get everyone together and put that sort of vision on paper as a team. So I've got some other things I've just noted there. Um, for example, where you've got how much is it that you want to earn each day? Is that going to be relevant? It may. It may. Maybe you need to change that if your goals are not going to be achievable with what you're currently earning. And is that achievable? And what is it that's on your wish list? So that list that you're going to make first before you put your vision board together. And anyway, the other steps are there is to look at what milestones you need along the way to reach those financial goals. So, what is a vision board? Oops. I think we've talked about it enough now for you to understand it is a visual representation of your financial goals, and it does use inspiring images and some actionable steps to keep you motivated. It's really helpful to put it somewhere where you can see it every day. So that does keep you on target. It's a good reminder and it does help motivate you. And it does bridge that gap between actually dreaming about what you'd like to do one day and then actually budgeting for it and making sure that you're moving closer to achieving that dream. So it could have some specific goals, like as we talked before, could be buying a house or travel. It could be starting a business, debt reduction, could be education, a big celebration, or even retirement. It includes the time frame and a dollar amount. And you can put the vision board together using old-fashioned tools. So you might have a big piece of cardboard and cutting out, images. It could be photos, words. You get, some big texters out. You could draw some things onto the cardboard. Or you could use something like Canva, for example, and have a vision board that you prepare on your computer, and you can keep it on your computer. Maybe it's your screensaver. You see that every day. Maybe you want to actually get that printed as a nice big poster, and you could include some motivational quotes or words as well if you wanted. Any questions at this stage? No? Okay, so here is just some examples. If you do a Google search on financial vision board. These are some examples of what you might see. You've got like presents, you've got car here, got some goals, investing, debt free, travel, whole lot of different things here. So there are a lot of examples to inspire you. I know even Pinterest has some templates that you can download, well, for general sort of vision boards. So that's something else that you could think about, but you don't need necessarily a template. You could use even PowerPoint or Word and create it there. So the different steps to create your vision board. First of all, you're going to define your goals. So what does financial freedom mean to you? That's, I suppose, really important. How is that? Just, I'm just saw about the mood board being filled with ice. Sorry. That's very, very funny. Okay, so in terms of your goals, then what exactly are they? We've talked a little bit about them. Then you need to decide then, do you want a physical collage or do you want to use a digital version? And then that's where the work starts to happen. So you've got to choose some images, maybe words and some dollars. So how much is it going to cost you to reach these goals? And display it so that you can see it daily. And then you might even need to update it as you achieve your goals. So, or if your vision changes as well. So when you've got your vision board though, it's also important to remember some of the things that we've already discussed in the previous workshops. So you do need to budget for your goals. So use the board to remind you that you're allocating money regularly to achieve those goals. It might help you to make those sacrifices if you can see what that's going to be at the end of the day. It also can help you in terms of being a little bit more disciplined in that way. So it can check, you can sort of check in on in terms of where your money's actually going and is it going towards helping you fulfill the dreams that you had put on on that vision board or not. And as we mentioned earlier as well, you can use it to be more accountable to others and share your goals with someone close to you as well, just to help make you committed to achieving those goals. But before we actually start to create a vision board, something really important to think about is this wheel of life. So I've just put an example of a wheel of life there. Yours will look, I'm sure, very different to this. But to help you think about what's important to you, you can think about the wheel of life because we talked about financial goals also being life goals. So you can see in this wheel of life, you've got different aspects to your life. So you've got health and fitness. And as we heard, you might need that. If you want to go on a holiday, you might need your health and fitness as well. You've got your social life and leisure. You've got your career or your business, your finances, and then you've got your close relationships, your intimacy, your family, your physical environment. So where you live, for example, when you get outdoors, how you explore your physical environment, and then you've got your own personal development. So you can see on that wheel, if you look closely, you can see in the middle of the wheel, you've got a 0 and then it goes all the way out to 100. So I suppose a good exercise for you to do is to think about where you are in the wheel of life currently. All right. So this is a sample of where someone might put themselves so that you can see there that they're saying they've got a great social life over here, but yeah, their finances aren't doing too well. They're close to their family. They've got a good close relationship. They enjoy the physical environment, but maybe their health is suffering as well, and their own personal development is suffering a little bit. So that's where they are now. But um, that is an important tool to help you really think about the different aspects of your life. And when you plot where you are for each of those domains, and then you have a look, are you happy with what your wheel of life looks like? And if you are, that's great. You're on track. You're living the life the way that you wanted it. But sometimes we don't always take time to actually look at how we are spending our time and living our life. So doing this sort of exercise can help you see where you are now. But then you might want to do another wheel of life to show, well, where is it? Maybe you can use different colors, where you are now, but where is it where you want to be? And if some of those plots on that wheel of life are actually going to be different for where you want to be, then that can help you decide on what maybe your financial goals might be, for example. I might just stop sharing for a minute and just see. Notice that we've got Kelly has joined us. Yes. Welcome, Kelly.
Kelly has joined previous sessions too, right, Kelly? Definitely, I remember last session.
So yes, we've got worries of life. Vanessa, can you explain that?
So I misinterpreted the percentages for where everything is plotted. And when I first looked at it, career and finances were as close to zero as it was. And I thought this particular person, not knowing anything about the percentages, seems to not have to worry about career, seems to not have to worry about finances because they're knowledgeable in those areas, but they are more worried about maintaining their social, their intimacy, and their health and fitness. So it's nice to not worry about what pays you, and it's more about the relationships.
Yes, yes, excellent. Yeah, and that's right. That's why I was saying, like, with your financial vision, it's not just about the dollars, but it's about what you're doing with them for your life. And in fact, I'm doing some research at the moment where a lot of it is showing that it's relationships. I mean, I know it's obvious, but I've got data to show it that it's relationships and health that are really top priority for people. But the finances also becomes important because the finances can help them, say, with their health if they are not healthy, and they need to, maybe they want to get fit or they need an operation or something like that. Sometimes that can cost a little bit of money as well, but not always, not always. But also, what's the point in having money if you're not healthy? So you've got that to weigh up. If you're working, really long hours and you don't have a social life, you're not seeing your family, is that how you want to live your life? So that's why I want to be really careful to not focus just purely on the dollars, but look at it a little bit more holistically. Okay, so Kelly's been in all sessions, yep, then dropped in and out. Okay, yes, I have heard there have been some internet issues this morning as well. Yes, so I suppose going back to that wheel of life, then that's where it's really important to think about where you want to be, because when we're putting the financial vision together, does it mean if you, let's say, are you earning enough to achieve the goal that you want? But if you need to change jobs or take on a second job, is that going to then cause another area of your life to suffer? So what is it that you really want? Let's try to look at it a little bit more realistically and ensure that you're not sacrificing something for the sake of something else, and you're still not going to achieve your vision at the end of the day. I mean, for many of us, even enjoying life. Often you want to be enjoying things. It's better with when you're enjoying it with other people, right? So, but Vanessa, your insight into that wheel of life was really good. So, thank you for sharing that. I'll just pop it back up for just one more minute. Not sure how much Kelly saw of that one.
I've done the Wheel of Life a few times over the years,
Oh, yes.
and I've kept records of them so I can actually go back and review the changes and where things are improving or not improving.
And what have you found any big differences?
Oh yeah, I went through some pretty traumatic experiences, so the wheel was very bumpy and very small.
Right.
It's just interesting to track how life goes over time, I think.
Could I ask a question
Yes.
for
Yes.
Maritia? So Maritia, seeing it in black and white and plotted, so it's not in your head and it's not emotional, did that help you with planning next steps? Because I've never done the Wheel of Life before.
I'm not very good with playing generally. But having it as a visual, it was really a wake up call that something had to change. So,
Great.
um, I guess for my circumstances at the time, I didn't feel like I had a lot of power or control over what that was. Mm, But looking back on it, I'm going, oh, actually, I've come a fair ways. There's still work that needs to be done, but um, that's always the case. So,
Is finances the main one?
oh no, it's all my wheel's very wonky.
Because we have Michelle here, so Michelle can help us with the finance part.
But I think really about all of this, it's about you actually, it's about you taking back control. Yeah, see, now I've got the highlight around my screen. When I shared it before, I didn't have the highlight, so I wanted to make sure you could see it. You can see it now, right? The screen? Yeah. So you were saying, Maritia, about you having a wonky wheel. Like this one here is pretty wonky as well. But I want to make it clear that, of course, this is just an example, but it doesn't mean that if you say your finances were out at 100%, it doesn't mean the other areas have to suffer. The idea of the wheel of life is that you want to get as close to 100 all the way around so it looks like a wheel. Whether you actually do, that's one thing. But as Meridia has just highlighted, it's just a good exercise to do to see where you are and become more aware of where are you now versus where would you like to be. So that's why I thought I would put that up there first. And perhaps you might want to do that a bit later. If you do a Google search for Wheel of Life, there are many out there. I think you can even, there's probably some free tools where you can answer questions and put things in and it will put a wheel together for you. They might call some of the areas, slightly different names, but the general idea is the same. So, when I was talking about this really being about you taking control, and of course there are different experts that you can go and seek help from if you really wanted to. So if you were to set, if this was your wheel of life and you didn't like where your finances were, if you were that person there with it very close to the middle, close to zero, maybe you could go and get some help from a financial expert. Maybe you go and see a financial advisor, or maybe you've got a whole heap of debt. Maybe you could call the National Debt Helpline to help you deal with your debt. So there are professionals who can help you there. If it's health and fitness, or maybe go and speak to your doctor about what you can do to improve that, if that's something that you can. I mean, often health, we do have some control over our health, of course. So that might be, or maybe you want to go and see a dietitian if you want to eat a bit more healthy. Personal development, maybe you need to talk to someone at Western Sydney University about doing a degree. Or maybe there's something else. Maybe you want to go and speak to a life coach. Maybe it's reading some books. So there's a whole range of different things. Career, business. So if you're not where you are, where you want to be with your career or business, then maybe you need to seek some guidance there. As Vanessa said, though, maybe in this example, the person isn't worried about their career or business, but it's basically putting the dot on where you are in terms of your satisfaction with that area of your life. So Vanessa, did you have another question? Sorry.
I did. Michelle, I'm not quite sure if you know much about the background of this particular Wheel of Life, but it looks as though it's someone with a family. Is that correct?
You would think that, yes, yes. Well, with intimacy, you would expect that they would have a close, like a partner, an intimate partner, and then family. It could be actually. We've got social life and leisure. On one of the other wheel, I was looking at which one I was going to use here. I actually had family and friends there as well. So yeah, it's
It seems like it is a lot of sacrifice for this one. You mentioned sacrifice before, so this particular person um, is giving everything to relationships and kind of forgetting themselves, and is not able to support themselves even if they want to, because there's not enough money going around for their goals for their mood board in career and business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, just randomly, it just, I don't know if I mean, who would see
Yeah,
this,
that's
so
very
it's
much.
sacrificing a lot.
Yeah, no, it is a very good insight there that that does tend to show that with that example because you can see they're not looking after themselves in terms of their health, um, the career or business or finances, yes, but they have a lot with their social life and their relationships there. But even their personal development is quite low there. So yes, but I mean, even as we heard from Maritia, people do go through different stages in their life as well. And there's nothing right or wrong with any of this. I mean, we're analyzing analyzing this, but it can tell us a lot about, well, what does that mean to us then? And where are we and where do we want to be? So for some people, they may be very happy to see something like that, but the fact that they've scored themselves low in some areas means that they're not satisfied with that area of their life. All right, so if we're looking at the financial side of things and we're looking at a financial vision board, you can include, you wouldn't want to include all of these, but you can include like a motivational quote that for a lot of people that's really helpful. All right. So, and it might not even be a motivational quote that's specific to finances. You might have a quote that you want to include on your vision board that's going to help you. It's in terms of your whole overall approach to life. But just as some examples for people, um, if you need some financial affirmations, I am attracting opportunities to create wealth, or things like I'm confident in my ability to generate money. We find that women in particular don't rate themselves as highly when it comes to confidence with money. It's not that they don't have the skills, that they don't have the confidence in their ability um, to use their skills that way. The other one that I really like, I control money, money doesn't control me. Put you back into being in control. Um, Meridia, you mentioned about you wanting to start a business. The business I'm starting is already successful. For example, a great affirmation there. Things like I use my money wisely. That last quote there, I really like that one as well. I am financially secure. So a whole lot of these things can be helpful with a vision board, and you may have something else that you want to include. But I just thought I'd provide some examples. Oh, not sorry, I'm not able to move the slides. Here we go. So I've just put some images here. Some or none of them may be relevant to you, but so this isn't a vision board itself, but just some images you might use. So we've got, like going, well, you could see the motorbike with two people on it in several different ways. It could be a holiday. It could be buying yourself a motorbike. It could be meeting someone new in your life and you ride off into the sunset together. We've got maybe a wedding, could be your own wedding, could be your children's wedding. These could be something that you're planning for. A new business as well, in the top right-hand corner. Could be that you're saving for some pets, perhaps. Meridia, it seems like we're maybe thinking similarly. I know not quite a dingo in that picture, but have some animals there. We've got a beach, a bike, some graduation hats, maybe a successful business person, a new swimming pool. And then I used this other image last time. This could represent a lot of different things to you, whether it's a new home and whether it's doing something fun with the family. But a few image examples there that might appear on a vision board.
The bottom right reminds me of the Christmas cards my nieces used to make for every year. So it reminds me that they haven't made one, so that I think they've grown up now since then. But the artwork is very nice.
Yes. Well, it could be artwork. Maybe you're saving for a piece of artwork. There you go. Or to take some art classes for personal development. All right, so we're going to actually spend some time now just playing around, creating a bit of a vision board. So I'll just stop sharing my screen. But what I thought we would do is, or just use, I mean, there's not many of us here today, so we can just have the one whiteboard to start with. And I'll just sort of show you where you can get some images from and use text and things like that. And we can create a combined sort of vision board if each of us put even one thing in there. But let's just fill it, just had some fun um, putting some things on that whiteboard. So I'm going to just create a new whiteboard. Can you all see that whiteboard on the screen? Yep. All right. So just to show you, if you can follow my pointer there, I think you can probably see it. Over on the left-hand side, you can actually, like you've got text here. So if you want to put something in text, you can put that in. You've also got here with more tools, you can do a chart, you can do a mind map, but you also have, see here, these pixels images. So you can search for an image there. So if I put, let's say travel in there just as an example, you can see images of different sorts of travel as an example. And then you can just drag it over into the whiteboard if you like. So I'm just going to now make some other observations. We've got some good photos in there and nice little cartoons, some great affirmations, but we need to have timelines and costs allocated to some of these. Let's see if we can add those. The 2032 upcoming vision looks extremely appealing. So even with that, the house deposit one, which is a really good one as well, then you might want to spend time, if it's someone who's really seriously considering that, to start looking at images of the sort of house and where you want the house to be to make it more and more realistic. And as we were saying, like the vision board is there for us to see daily and to help motivate us. And, it can really help you, particularly if you're working really hard. You can see this is what you're working towards. And it helps you keep putting that money aside, ready for your goal to be realized. But we also might need to consider the steps to get there. So some of those longer term goals, you'd want to have a little bit of a plan as to how you're going to make that happen. And then your vision board is a reminder of what you're doing every day to make that happen.
That Kanban thing is interesting. Who did that? What's that about?
So I think Kanban is, usually, it's like a step-by-step process, isn't it? Let me just click on that.
I heard of it before.
We used to use Kanban back in the 90s in manufacturing. Okay, so I've just popped it. Can you see that, the Kanban?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to do, in progress, done. That could be something you could even have at the bottom of your vision board, right? And you could have like your list here, I don't know, to do, let's just say emergency savings in progress. I can see that now there's an amount against getting a will. So depending on how complex a will is, it can actually can be even more than $500, but it just depends on what is involved.
If you need an executor for a will, does it have to be somebody you know, or can it be a lawyer?
It can be a lawyer, yes.
Okay. And how would they know if you die? Like,
Well,
you said,
that's the thing,
so
isn't
I
it?
don't have anybody I trust enough to be executor.
You
My son's
have also got the like there's a state, a government representative that you can appoint,
Hmm.
but they take a percentage of funds from your estate for managing that. But that's another consideration. But if you go to speak to a lawyer, they will be able to tell you what your options are.
What did you call that? something of the state.
Is it called the, what's the name of it? State Guardian? Is that the Guardian? Oh, sorry. I'll just,
Is it New South Wales trustees and
that's it. Yeah.
just, it would be a good question to ask if you happen to be on the way out if you're in hospital. So one of the care workers would link you to your legal representation of family. Remember, they always ask for next of kin, but they don't ask for executor of your will.
All right. Well, I think we've had a bit of fun there, all of us adding to that vision board. Did anyone want to talk to what vision they have uploaded?
Not really, but I've added, so you've got I've got like short term, mid term, long term, but I've also in my head and on my bit of paper in front of me included things about whether it's a one-off expense, whether it's ongoing or whether it's a regular check-in. So if a will, for example, is a regular check-in,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's right.
whereas buying a house is a one-off.
Well, it might not be, but yes.
Generally, yeah.
Generally, it would be, wouldn't it? Yeah.
But, the maintenance of a business is ongoing. So including those three things sort of helps to set a guide for me.
And I suppose you could even set it up in columns, like short term, medium term, long term, or it just depends on what you think's going to motivate you really, or even different colors. It could be color coded. If you are really wanting to do this using a digital tool, if you do have access to Canva and you're good at using that, that would be amazing. I think you could get something really nice together. You could also use PowerPoint because you can, import stock images and things like that. Or you might have photos that you want to, if you've, found a house that you like, you could Google, find things like that. Same with your holidays and pop those photos straight into a PowerPoint, which would be an easy way to do a vision board. Or you might want to go back to using some cardboard and actually popping things there. I know my daughter, when she was a teenager, she was planning out all the things that she wanted to do, and she had like the mirrored wardrobes, like floor to ceiling, and she used whiteboard markers and wrote, because you can rub it off, and wrote on there. You might even have an actual whiteboard or a cork board. You could pin photos on or pin words on it, things like that. So there are other options that you can use. Whatever you think will work best. But the main thing is that you display it somewhere where you see it regularly.
So with the New South Wales trustees, it's $462 to get a will and $29 to store it.
And then do they have about what actually happens when they administer the estate, the fees then?
I haven't read through that yet.
Yeah, no, sorry. But I'm pretty sure it's a percentage, but it may have changed since I'd last seen that.
Oh, here we go. Administration fees.
I wonder if it's cheaper to just get a power of attorney. But you do have, sorry, I'm considering a power of attorney or a will.
So when you speak to your lawyer or to draw up your will, they'll ask you about those questions as well. But something definitely to think about, because you want to make sure you've got, someone that you can trust.
They take a percentage. So any amount over 750,000, they take 1.65%. And it's the percentage increases the less that you've got. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So they do. It's like started. It's a substantial amount of money.
That's right. It doesn't sound like much, but then when you do the calculation and think.
So Maritia, some people also use AI for a will. I mean,
They are.
they do. So
I have
they,
issues with
and then can you just file that at the lawyers to execute for $29, like store for 29 and then just pay that?
I wouldn't recommend using AI for because your will needs to be legally binding, and there are certain requirements to ensure that it's legally binding. I mean, I suppose it's better than nothing, but if you want to ensure that it is legally binding, you are better off having a lawyer assist you with that. I suppose that's like with anything. AI can maybe help guide you as to the sorts of things you want to think about before you go and see a lawyer so that you can minimize the time with the lawyer and therefore the cost. Because some law firms may charge a flat fee for wills. Others, it all depends how complex. If you need to spend a lot of time with them, then it's going to cost more money. But always helpful to, you know, be prepared when you do visit.
$700 to get a will, a power of attorney, and an appointment of enduring guardian. They bundle it.
Okay, yes, that's a good way to do it. And you'd also want to deal with your binding nomination at that stage if you haven't yet done that.
Can you do that in advance? So if like my son's 17, so automatically he's going to inherit whatever. But
Yes,
can I say that he becomes the, what do you call it, the binding whatever when he turns 18? That's what happens.
yeah, I'm not going to give you legal advice. So yes, you'll need to speak to a lawyer, but you can also with your estate, you know, there are certain things that you can put in there if you have children or grandchildren where you can wait until they're a certain age and then it's just put in trust until they reach that age. If you're concerned that, you know, something should happen to you while they're still younger, still adults, but maybe not responsible enough yet, you might want them to wait a certain age. But they're all the things that not a family lawyer, an estates lawyer can go through with you and answer all of your questions. I'm just looking at our whiteboard. I seem to have lost everything, or is it just me?
Might just have to move it up or down.
Okay, yeah.
Could we get a copy of the mural board? That would be, I really like the mural board.
Sorry, what was that, Vanessa?
Could we potentially get a copy of the mural board as well? Is that something that we can that's downloadable?
Like the whiteboard that we were using?
Yes, yes. Would it be
Yes.
interactive then? Because there's a lot of hidden comments and
Yeah, so
edit.
I think that's going to get sent to me like once the recording's finished, that particular whiteboard. So we will send that. I think we can probably send that to you, maybe.
Yeah.
We can, but because using Zoom, you can have everybody have their own individual whiteboards and then the hope that the host can still see them all. I didn't do that because there were only a few of us there, but that's an option in Zoom. Even if you have Zoom and you want to use that whiteboard, you can go into Zoom, create your own meeting for just yourself and go into Zoom and use the whiteboard options, which is under more. You have the three dots more. And because you'll be the host, you'll be able to do that and you can just play around with it and then save yourself a copy if that's what you'd like to do.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to scooch, but thank you so much again.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank you.
what you've done. Cheers.
Yeah, and thanks again for your participation. It's been really good.